Got used to it now? It takes a few seconds, few minutes. Looks like my nerve issues are continuing. It's okay. Thanks, buddy. It's okay. Here for a few days? Only for today? Both of you? Leaving tonight.
We planned for 3-4 days, but it was lucky that today we have.
You've been here 3-4 days? Sorry. Now that Sri Ram and Joanna, Majid of course is fine and Thiru. So. Yeah. Ask me something.
So you're okay with your health now?
Yes, yes. Mostly. Okay, just tell me, don't ask me. Tell me about your spirituality. Okay, come Just put me on the spot. But this is our only meeting in your visit, no?
There are many things that I do or I'm asked to do, but if I have to really look within myself, all I do is to float.
All you do is float.
I just float with whatever is coming. That's what generally works.
I see.
I don't know anything about my spirituality apart from this.
Yeah. So when you let go, that's what I'm hearing from your response, that you're floating in the sense that you let go of doership.
No, whatever comes, I try to be present for that thing. Because my plans generally doesn't work out. So I let go and enjoy whatever comes in. Like this was to come. If this wouldn't have happened, then also I would have accepted. But it happened, so I am feeling very, very grateful. So I'm feeling grateful and lucky. Last night also, we were watching all the videos of Papaji, Moji, yours, and it was as joyful. So that was a part of floating, and now simply sitting in front of you, it's as beautiful. I don't have anything else, so I'm just simply being with you.
You want to say something?
I'm lucky.
What else? We come to satsang, many of us will experience a sense of peace, a sense of love, a sense of joy. Where does it come from? The outer environment, even the outer environment of satsang, at best can act as a catalyst or a trigger or provide some support. The source of all of this is from where? From within. Right? But within is what? Within is flesh, bones, blood. What else is within? Fan? So this is outside. Fan, heat and cold, all of that. But what is within? Consciousness self. She's gone straight to max. No? It's like the regulator isn't full. But if you were to go step by step, usually how we look at it is that this realm of perception is on the outside, and that includes the appearance of this body. And what we usually call within is thoughts, emotions, intellect, our capacity to judge things. Then all of this imagination, memory, all of these things come. We call that on the inside. But none of these can be the source of love, peace, and joy. So, what else must there be within? And true insight or self knowledge, Atmagyan, can definitely not come from any of these instruments or formations that we spoke about. So, where can true Atmagyana, true insight, true self knowledge, and true unconditional love, which is independent of worldly things, where does that come from? And the clue is in the question itself. Because Atmagyan can only come from the Atma. True unconditional love can only come from the Atma. But in all of these things, when did we come across the Atma? We came across thoughts, we came across emotion, we came across judgments, intellect, even we may have a lot of spiritual knowledge conceptually. But where was the Atma? Where is the Atma? And what is the Atma? What is the Holy Spirit? So we may ask a question, who am I? And the question is special because the answer cannot be solved in the intellect. Yes, otherwise it would be just another question. It would be like, what is gravity? Or what is evaporation? Yes. But who am I or what am I is different. Why is it different?
It's not going towards the object.
It is not.
It is not going towards object.
It's not going towards the object. Very good. So that which is not objective in its nature, how do we, with which instrument do we fathom that? Do we capture that?
By being devotional.
Huh?
By being devotional.
By being devotional? Very good, very good, very good. So, very good. What is the number one prerequisite of devotion?
Lack of I.
मैं नहीं बस तू. Everything is about you. So the strong intent to leave ourselves and to make this life about God, the one that we could be devoted to, is the fundamental object of devotion. But suppose that one is not devotional or not devotional yet, they will become. A jnani will become a bhakta will become a jnani. But if they came across a Shuddha Advaita Vedanta text, and I use that term Shuddha loosely, and they were pointed to the inquiry, and nowhere was it mentioned about devotion. It was said that you ask yourself, who am I? Till you come to the answer to this question. Can the answer come unless the same prerequisite which was needed in devotion is also met with here? Which is the prerequisite? To let go of the me. Only when we let go of this me can we come to the love of the bhakta, the bhakti of the bhakta, or the jnana of the jnani. Huh? You're good. So, to leave the lane empty for God, or let's say truth for those who are not yet feeling the word God so much, to leave the lane of our life, of our existence, empty of this me and open for truth, open for God, is the prerequisite of any spirituality. Then what happens? So suppose that either through your inquiry, who am I, or through your japa, Nam japa, Ram, 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 you come to this place where you're no longer concerned, at least for a few moments, about the me and its life, so-called life. Then what happens? So, 99% of all spiritual guidance is about how to come to this point. Because after this, coming to this point, there's not much, if any at all, guidance that is needed. Isn't it? But let's for a few minutes delve into now what? And if you can delve into it experientially, through true insight rather than speculation, that will be better.
Then it's choicelessness. It's kind of choicelessness. You don't have mind don't have role to give you judgments. It becomes
Mind doesn't have a role anymore. Then what happens? What is the first part of what you said?
choicelessness.
Choicelessness. Choicelessness. Okay, so choicelessness is there. The mind doesn't have a role to play now. Exactly. That we experience, which is not worldly, can bring these tears to our eyes. Because we are touched by something which is out of this world, out of this play of Maya. So this is spirituality. Some words came to share with all of you about this. So I got my these tools and came. So the words that came were, leaving myself, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul, looking lovingly at him, feeling him loving my heart, seeking his light without worldly eyes, unmoving except at his command. Leaving myself, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul, looking lovingly at him, feeling him loving my heart, seeking his light without worldly eyes, unmoving except at his command. So most of the difficulty, the effort in spirituality is line number one, leaving myself. How do I leave myself? And 12 years ago, when we started sharing satsang, probably most of our conversations would have been about the distinction between this I and this me. But now, most of you hopefully have an intuitive sense of this. The me is the false one, the mask, the belief system, the false persona. And this being, this consciousness, this I amness, which picked up this mask of somethingness, has the ability to leave it as well. So I amness, consciousness, beingness, unattached to notions of me, remaining open and empty. So this leaving myself is a prerequisite no matter what path you may be on. Okay? So to fathom this more, we must explore what would picking up this me look like. Because the leaving actually has no mechanics. The picking up of the me has mechanics. Yeah? So how would I pick up myself? Just sitting. The identification organically. Is there identification organically?
Effortlessly.
Huh?
It's not organically, but effortlessly. Without any effort.
Okay, let's explore that. Effortless is everything can move in front of me. I am not going to make an effort. Yes, effortless. Now, what moves in front of me? The world moves. Have I picked up myself because the world moves? I haven't picked up. Body sensations included in the world, everything is. But body sensations move. Have I picked up myself? Come on. Don't make me work hard. No, isn't it? And thoughts move. If I make no effort, they're coming and they're going. Does a thought come and stay? Huh? Is there a thought, मैं आ गया हूँ? Huh? I'm here to stay. It may seem like that sometimes because of its repetitive nature, but really no thought lingers in that way. It repeats itself, and that's why it seems like it is bothering us. But in its constant repetition also, the thought itself, by itself, like a flame, arises and it extinguishes, arises, extinguishes. It's perceived and it's unperceived, isn't it? Now, how do I engage with this thought? Yeah. The first level of engagement already was in the perception of it with our attention, isn't it? So, because of our attention, we notice that there is a thought. But we also have another power, which is the power of belief. Yeah? What this thought is saying the truth or it is not saying the truth. When we pick up a belief, what happens in that process? That which was just empty now seems to have a position. And it could be a very high sounding position. It could even be the notion that God is all there is. If you're going to pick up a thought, that's not a bad one. Let's even look at this thought. That which is empty of any identification now has a position. Okay? And very quickly, even in spite of the highest seeming thought being believed in, the notion of attaching to a me will come. God is everywhere, so then I don't have to worry. Or I am also then God. See, quickly the me comes, because the mind will keep pestering you till you come up with the answer to what does this mean for me. With me so far?
Yes.
Till we don't settle on what does this mean for me, it'll keep offering us. And then we say, yes, that means that something. Okay? So this is the invention of the me. Or मैं आया is Maya. मैं आया is Maya. As Anand Mahima said. So, this is the process of picking up myself, the false self. Where is this me? Where is this me? That likes spirituality, that doesn't like worldly things. For example, where is this me? Is the body? Not the body. Is it the mind? No, this mind is just a bundle of thoughts. So somehow this non-existent me, because of the power of belief is like a hallucinatory power. Makes you believe in something that doesn't actually exist. So this identity is a belief in that which doesn't actually exist. But does that mean that we are now stuck? Because we have believed in millions of things in the past. No, that is the good news. That is the grace of God, that in every moment really you are empty. Right now, you're empty. What is your name? Don't know. Right now you don't know. Takes a unit of time even for the recollection of that which is so deeply believed in. So, to allow these thoughts to come and go is to leave yourself, the false self. Now, to the mind, it seems like this is the end of life. What is there after this? Finished. But this is truly the beginning of your spirituality, the beginning of your spiritual life. You may not have a narrative to share after this. You may not even suffer truly if you're not buying into any of these notions. But as you remain empty of the false, the truth starts revealing itself to you, using a completely different system than the system of the false. What is the system of the false? We looked at it. Thoughts, intellect, belief, attention. What is the system of the truths? So using God's name or using God-given gift called inquiry, we came to this place of leaving ourselves. But empty or the unborn seems like a limbo state. And go and sit in a dark, empty room. It sounds like that to the mind. But that is the fallacy. As we let go of false identification with the me, a deeper discipleship starts for us in our life, which is the discipleship of the Atma. Which introduces us to a different life, which has always been there, but we have never known. We have thought that life is this, play of the body-mind. But actually, in reality, our life has been about truth and love, faith, and unconditional joy. So, that is the leaving myself part. Leaving myself. I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul. What do we mean by soul? Because we said there's body-mind, then we said there's Atma. What is the soul? Soul is a convenient word. And there's a Hindi or Sanskrit equivalent of that called Antakarna. Basically, your insights, whatever these emotions, mind, memory, all of these things, intellect that we spoke about. Just look at that, a collection of all of that as the soul. Now, there would be no great thing about this Antakarna, this soul, if in its innermost depths, in its very center, was not the resting place of God's presence. Huh? So all of us in India have seen this beautiful image of Lord Vishnu resting on Sheshnag. Yes? So that image is just an outer representation of this on the inside. And what else is there in that image? There is one lotus flower that blooms from his navel. On that lotus is Brahmaji. Brahmaji is what? The creator. So all of this projection comes from there. Yeah. And also there is the beloved mother who is his beloved partner, our beloved mother, if you want to look at her that way, who is serving him, who is loving him, who is deeply in love with him. Who does she represent? This very Antakarna itself. So I am the her, I am her. And he is within me, but also he is my God. And remember that these are just framings of that which is purely intuitive. We are not picking up a new me, a new identity. We're just finding words to communicate that which is ineffable. Why? Because to hear this is inspirational. It counters the mind's idea of a dark and empty limbo. The truth is much beyond that. So the presence of this holy light, the presence of God called the Atma within, is there right in the center of your being. And to be present to His presence lovingly, attentively, so another way of saying it, like I was saying it earlier, was what is spirituality? It is to rest in our heart temple, immersed in a deep love for God. Because in the discipleship of God's presence, in the discipleship of the Atma, the Holy Spirit, He shows us who we really are. The answer is available on the internet. Yeah, pure awareness. The answer is available. YouTube, 5-minute search, you will get to the answer. But that answer is worthless. It's like somebody told me when I started spirituality that I am made up of a substance called love. And I said, wow, wow. But it is meaningless, except for the fact that it is inspirational, till it becomes our living truth, till it becomes our living insight. The answer is not really worth much. In fact, mostly it is counterproductive because the mind feels, ये तो मुझे पहले ही पता था. I knew this already. So, but when we are taught this by God, by His presence, by the Sadguru presence, which is the Atma itself, then we really learn the lesson, learn it in a loving, most beautiful way. But when we learn it just conceptually, then it is just garbage. So leaving myself, I'm just present to His presence or her presence, whichever way you want to relate to God. Leaving myself, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul. Unreachable, why? If it's unreachable, then why am I talking all this? Because reachable through empirical, worldly means reachable would be that I can think about something, I can try to bring my attention to some memory, I can do all of these things at the body level, at the mind level, at the intellect level. I can even try to encourage some feeling of some emotion. You see? I can do all of that. But where He is unreachable through any of these empirical means. But some magic happens when I leave myself and the unreachable becomes reachable. What is the word for that magic? It's grace. Grace.
So that is a common phrase used to summarize. So
I wanted to hear the rest of it. Grace, was he talking about grace? It's all right, it's all right. So that unreachable becoming reachable, inaccessible becoming accessible is grace. So sitting truly in the holy place, being truly present to His presence, is 100% effort and 100% grace. Which I know doesn't make any sense. but 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 I'm sure things stopped making sense a long time ago, so I'm not even bothering with that. So leaving myself, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul, looking lovingly at him or her. How do I love? Suppose you have a beloved partner or parent or child. You may be busy with your work, but some photo shows up on your Facebook or social media or whatever, and looking at that photo of that beloved parent, child, just in remembering, just in being reminded, has the effect of love. So that is why we have japa, which is to be in constant remembrance of God. What is another way to be loving?
Stay.
Huh?
Stay with God.
Stay, of course. To stay with Him brings all these virtues out, yes, out into us. But another way is just to be grateful. Yes. Thank you. Bless you. But possibly one of the sweetest things I've ever heard, and this is from Saint Elizabeth of the Trinity, which was that to love Him, all we have to do is to allow Him to love us. So that's why this came up to say, feeling Him loving my heart. So what have we said so far? Leaving myself, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul, looking lovingly at Him, feeling Him loving my heart, or feeling her loving my heart. That's the most pristine way to be, but it also has some spiritual use. And I know in Satsang we're always searching for some spiritual use. That the anchor of this love allows us to remain like this for prolonged periods of time. And you must experiment with this. To remain open and empty, anchorlessly, or anchored in this what we said in the Atma Darshan Samadhi as the state of Bhava Samadhi. To remain empty of the world, anchored just in the Bhava of love, unconditional love, not a passion, not a desire, maybe a longing, but a sweetness of longing. So please look at everything that is being shared as spiritual instruction and not mere poetry. So, leaving myself, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul, looking lovingly at Him, feeling Him loving my heart. So, four lines of spiritual instruction. And you must, this line really touched me when she said that the way to love Him is to allow Him to love you. It just reminds me of like an infant, or even Aslan recently. You just come and sit on my bed and say, doesn't need to use words. No? Just him coming and sitting next to me on my bed means love me. No? So he's expecting that love as a child. In the same way, all of us can relate to this. And it's a deep, deep statement of faith, isn't it? Yeah? Because there's no doubt in the matter. You're making yourself available to be loved by God. You see? We left all doubt behind. Yeah? You must feel this in your heart. Make your heart His. Like Swami Ram Subdas ji said, मैं आपका हूँ भगवान. Such a simple line to say. I belong to you, Lord. It's a simple line to say, but it contains the essence of spirituality, a sense of faith, surrender, love. Yeah?
Available means, can you elaborate how can I be available?
Just become like an infant, expecting that the mother will love you. Yeah? Experiment with it a bit, a few days, see what starts to show up. Yes. Like I said, it's a question of faith actually. If we second guess ourselves, then it'll become an obstacle. We just jump. The mother will hold me, she will love me. Is it? Like that. So jump into your heart with that faith, and it'll come. In this, it is like linear instruction, so don't worry. Yeah? It will come. Seeking His light without worldly eyes. What is His light? Huh? His presence can seem like a light which is unperceivable, yes. Again, this won't make sense because unperceivable light, which you see. So we left sensibility back a long time back. So, but those of you who have been in satsang, you know that you have a sense at least of this light, which is not like this light. It's not like the light of the sun or the light of a electrical thing. It is like a holy light, a holy vibration. And in that light does the whole world appear. This is the light of the projector on which this movie plays on the screen of consciousness. So we seek His light, but His light here also means His insight, His knowing, His knowledge, Atma Jnana. You may say then that He is all there is. Do you have any evidence of that? No. Do you care about the evidence? No. You just know at a very deep place. You know that He is the source of all love. You may say, I am, for yourself, your own being is the source of all love. Prove it. You don't care about proving it. How do you know? You can't explain it. Because we left sense making a long time back. Just in that holy place, the holy temple in your heart. So we are seeking His light, but it is a knowledge which is not perceivable, nor is it conceptualizable. That is His light. What is that mode of knowledge? Is it just perception and conceptualization? Are these the modes of knowledge? That's what most of the world thinks. You see, and obviously thought will say that. But spirituality is the journey beyond these two modes of knowledge into a deeper mode of knowledge. The intuitive light, which is beyond empirical means. Swami Satchidanandendra Saraswati has written a beautiful booklet on this, which I've tried to get many of you involved with for a few years, but it doesn't take because it's written very academically. So in one satsang, we'll just read through it together. He's saying it very beautifully. So this is his light, which is the holy light of his presence, but also the jnana, the Atma Jnana. Self-knowledge of which you have no basis. But this is basis enough for you, more than scripture. More than scripture. Unmoving, except at his command. हुक्म रजाई चलना नानक लिखया नाम. Nanak ji said that the core of all spirituality is to follow his hukum, his will. Now suppose that you got a new job and you didn't show up for work, you're working from home, quote unquote, working from home. And you're just doing some stuff which you're presuming that will be good for the company. He's working on something, I think. Then somebody, whole year has gone by. Now it's time for your annual review or whatever, appraisal. And you meet your manager for the first time. And just being absurd about it, of course. So manager says, what did you do? You say, I did this, this and this. He says, but who told you to do this? You say, I just presumed. I saw on the company website that this is what we do. So I did all of this work. It's ready for release now. All of it. So what will the manager say? Say, first you need to show up. Then you need to ask me. Then you need to understand the way I give instruction. And then you need to follow that. So we are no longer in the realm of mere morality or ethics, where we presume based on some broad principles what is God's will. We are now in the realm of spiritual innocence, spiritual childhood, where every moment in our simplicity we are waiting for God to guide us, waiting for Him to move us, waiting for Him to tell us. And for Him to tell us, we have to show up. We have to be present to His presence. We cannot not meet Him and say, I'm living in His will. At least our intention has to be with Him, to follow Him. Is it? So true dissolution of ego cannot happen without the dissolution or while the separation of will is still alive. So whether we call it a divine union, where the will seems to merge into his will, or whether we call it a surrender, where we say that let thy will be done and not mine. This needs patience, this needs faith, this needs courage. Because the mind puts you on a deadline. Says, but you need to book tickets now. You need to confirm your job now. But to have that patience and trust that I will be moved from my heart, I will be moved by His love, His light. To learn to read your inner compass, your heart compass, is very useful. Because it seems like God is pushing us, you see, pushes us. He makes us suffer to remember Him. What kind of God will do that? These kind of things come. But actually that slap has come after 10,000 nudges. But we have not learned to follow the nudges. We have not learned to take our temperature on the inside, in our heart. We have not learned to read the inner compass of His guidance. Because we know too much here. So to allow Him to move you, allow Him to guide you. And it's not a dialogue-God service. You feel like, oh, but I turned to Him, but He didn't do anything. It is going to be if we know a lot, it is going to be very squeezing for our ego, for our pride. If we are innocent like children, it will be easy. So this simple sounding line, unmoving unless it is His will, it is His command, is essential. Is essential. Lord Jesus at one point said, that don't come to me later saying, Lord, Lord, because I will not recognize you if you have not followed my Father's will. It's a very strong statement. And it should be enough for us that Nanakji said, no? He said, will this work, will this work, will this work, will this work? We have the whole thing there for anybody who doesn't know. He says, no, none of it will work except we must learn to follow His will. Hukum rajai chalna. And when we think that He must be exaggerating or He didn't really mean it, it is our pride which thinks that we know something or we know better. Maybe we're finding reasons because it is not easy. Sometimes it can feel like our head is on the chopping block. But this is not meant to be easy. Love for God, to be in love with God, to spend our life in service to God, nobody's ever said it's easy. It's only easy when we become children. Has anyone, sorry, one last thing. Has anyone ever said, Ye ishq hai aasan? Everyone has always said, Ye ishq nahi aasan. And this is the highest love, highest ishq. So it is not easy. And if it's feeling very easy, then we just audit ourselves and see if we are stuck in some pride. Because this aspect of it specially is the whole thing. This is the whole spiritual game. Ravan thought he knew a lot. So he thought he's doing the right thing. Adam thought he knew after eating that apple. He knew something. So all the narratives in spirituality are about this. There's hardly a character in any religion or spirituality who was just evil for the sake of being evil or bad for the sake of being bad. They were all stories of characters you look at across religion. All stories of characters who got into pride, who got into thinking that they know something. So that is the impediment to following his will, is to think that I know something. Don't control me. And we don't realize that this idea of being controlled by God actually is freedom. Because who are we controlled by otherwise? This oppressive one in the head. Egotistical pride. Those who are living like Ravan, are they happy? They think they are. Because they're expanding the kingdom every day. They're capturing one loka every day. Oh, I'm doing so well. But they lost touch with their inner compass. So they lose a sense of even what is real happiness. And for many times in our lives, we've lived in states, horrible states, where we felt like desire fulfillment is happiness. We felt like worldly things are happiness. Instead of that, unalloyed joy that comes in His presence, in His light. On this particular point, I'm not speaking as a master, I'm not speaking as a guru, I'm a mere beginner. 100 times a day I go with what I want instead of waiting for God to move me. 100 times a day. So we are in this together in that way. even the application, I don't know if it's a subtle thing to say, but even the application of my spirituality onto my life many times comes from my will instead of waiting for God's will. I don't know. You mean that? So to return to a childhood, to return to an innocence, to return to a sheer simplicity is both the essence and the fruit of spirituality. This one. Sorry, I know I said that before. Um, when Krishna played the flute late at night, very inappropriate time, inconvenient also. And if all the gopis were sensible, they would have said, tomorrow, this is no time. So, what is that representative of? This the very same spiritual journey of merging ourselves into the divine. But if we know better, if we know what is this the right time for, the wrong time for. And when the gopis came, no, there's a beautiful story. They came and he said, he's a great trickster. No? He said, what are you doing here? Don't you know? How dare you come at this time? You're going to spoil my name. You go back to your husbands and to your homes. What did they say? They said, in this, we are here, we want to be present only to your presence. It doesn't matter even what you say for this. It's like that beautiful kirtan by Namdev ji. Like, मैं तो नहीं छोड़ूंगी or छोड़ूंगा, whatever. Many times these great masters would use either gender for themselves. So, Madhave, I'm not getting the right exact words, but मैं ना छोड़ूंगी. You may do whatever you want. So Krishna, you may leave if you want. I am not going to leave. And what is our experience? Has it ever been you're sitting in his presence and he has said, okay, now enough time for you, I have other people to look into, I'm going. Has he ever said? He's never said. That's enough presence for you, I'm going. Has he said? He has never said. He is always available to be present to us. It is our fidelity which is in question. Like a mother, he has always been available to us as children. But as children, we have been playing, we have been taking the mother for granted, all of these things. Yeah? So, to come back home, careful of my arm, she makes you believe that mud is valuable and the true jewel, the true diamond in your heart is mud. Is it? That mud is valuable. And then our lives, sorry if the words come harsh, but then our lives are just like mud-eating zombies, looking for satisfaction, looking for fulfillment in a godless way. Does that mean that our outer lives in this world are to be passive and static? No. But you be alive to Him and let Him move you. That's the point of the last line. Even when He came Himself, did He lead a passive and dead life? No. Whether as Ram, Krishna or Jesus, their lives were full on actually, isn't it? Yeah? So that is not the meaning of living in His presence. It's an inner solitude, it's an inner stillness, an inner quietude. But whether it has to be outer solitude or not is up to His will. Not even up to our own spiritual decisions, spiritual sounding decisions. And so this process of contemplation that we had today is also what we've been talking about, Advaita sadhana or lectio divina. Because what did we do? We read, we're reading. So the reading is the same as hearing. So whether we call it shravanam or lectio, that is the first step of sadhana. Then we looked at each line and we dwelt on it. You see? Extracted the juice out of it, squeeze the grape, so to speak. Then, hopefully, at many points, we realized. So that the second part was the mananam or the meditation process. Yeah. Then, at many points, we realized that this helps. Huh? So we realized that this we cannot do by ourselves. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't do it unaided. So, whether formally or informally, a prayer goes out to God, which is our inclusion to the Advaita sadhana process, which is Sharanam or Oresho, praying, to realize that it's grace which can take us there, is to ask for His help, is to surrender to Him. And then the Nididhasana, the contemplation, just wordlessly So it's very beautiful. So to read is to, or to read or to hear is to put the grape in your mouth, to do manana on it, to this way of meditation on it is to squeeze the fruit out of the grape, to realize that the sweetness is always going to be His gift, and to pray for that sweetness is the prayer or the Sharanam process. And the contemplation part, the Nididhasana part, is the tasting His presence, tasting His love, tasting the sweetness as the fruit of our spiritual practice. Getting a sense of what I'm saying? So that's like the meta overview of what satsang does, what satsang is meant to do at least. This you want me to exchange? Okay. So if our satsang of our spirituality is empty of the last one, then let's put a little more focus on that. Because otherwise we're spending a lot of time on the cooking. We're not really eating or tasting or digesting, whichever way you want to look at it. So that quiet time in the mind's perspective seems like a complete waste of time. But to sit quietly being present to Him is the very fruit of spirituality. The rest is all preparation. So whichever method, whether you're inquiring, you're praying, whatever you're just listening to satsang, whatever your spiritual practice is, make sure that this, all of this that we discussed today is there, central to spirituality. Please come. Welcome. Hello, welcome. Okay. Shiv had a question, and then Naren.
In the first line, we left the false one.
Yeah.
And there's another one to whom all the other lines are happening. So, in emptiness, the false one is gone. And the true one, we can reach through inquiry. But you're saying there's a real one which is separate from God. There's a real me which is still separate from God. And that one, I don't know about. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you've talked about it all that much.
One thing I could say, but I won't, because we are picking up satsang after a few days break, so I won't be choppy today, but is that we left sensibility long back. So if it doesn't make sense, we have to follow even more. We have to follow even more, especially when it doesn't make sense. But let me instead look together with you. I left the false one, left myself, the smallest self. Now, what remains? What went? Okay, let's see. What went with the false one?
Belief in a me, like the belief that I'm the
so
body.
the story went.
Yeah.
The shape, no real shape, but the idea of how to make a shape of myself went. But anything that is really valuable or of value has not left, because the false one never existed in the first place. So in the leaving of that, it's just like saying, if I believed myself to be a caterpillar and now I don't believe myself to be a caterpillar, then how many of my limbs have gone now? None in reality. Only the false ideas of the limbs that I had about myself, maybe hundreds of those went, but not really. So in reality, none of the forces, none of the powers which God has made available to us have gone. Only the false one is. So then, is love gone? Is my capacity to love gone? Is attention gone? Is my capacity to be present to His presence gone? None of that which we need for true spirituality is gone. In fact, the road has been made clear for that true spirituality to unfold. So, I feel like your question may be then, how do I decide that the doer is gone? So then how do I do all of this? Is your question something like this? Like the false doer is gone.
I just feel there's a third me which I haven't met at all. I don't know this one.
Not really. Just play around with this a moment and see. Is that Achinta Bheda Bheda thing?
Is that still separate when the witness of empty of me and there's witnessing of perception? That witness is still separate.
Okay, let me recap. Leaving myself, we went through how to remain open and empty. I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul. Forget the sit part, it's poetic. So there's no sitting or standing left. But can you be there in your heart temple now? In spite of the false one not being there, you don't have any Shiv, the name, identity Shiv. You don't have any story of your life, you have no past, you have no present, you have no future. Now where are you? That is that unreachable place. So just to remain there. So when Bhagavan says abide, this is what that means. Or to remain, this when Jesus said remain in me, this is what that means. Now, it could not be that Bhagavan said abide or Jesus said remain in me as instruction for the false one to grow in its power. So it's really ungraspable. I can get the confusion, and that is why it's important to just rely on our innocence more than understanding. You see, if you can't do any of this, then point that out to me. Leaving myself, yes. I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul. Happened naturally. When you left yourself, what happened? Something draws you more and more inward, isn't it? Huh? No? Huh?
So it's like when you say that this part I'm not getting. So I know I'm the witness, but I don't know some things. Is this the one that gets to know eventually? Is that the one in between, the
No,
real
no, I'm
one?
saying you don't worry about your question. I'm saying just worry about whether you can follow this or not.
And first line,
And then
yes.
see what happens to the
First line, yes.
to
All
the
the rest, no.
yes. Then what happens when you let go of yourself? Is it a static limbo? It should be. Conceptually, it should be. In the mind, it seems like that. But what really happens, like a lean hona, no? Like a lean hona, you know what I'm saying? Like we become more and more inward. These are the turtle's legs which I spoken about. But the turtle's head, legs, everything start to go more and more in. And we don't know where that in stops. Okay, be careful not to visualize these things, okay? Let it happen just organically. So you are empty. Now, ideally, if you're following Master Bankai or something, you're in the unborn finish, all things are resolved. Correct? And that happens. You see? But there's other magic which is also happening, which is that empty of myself, I seem to be going deeper and deeper. I don't know deeper into what. And that's why I'm calling it an abyss. But if I wanted to get there, I could not. Still with me? These things are very difficult to talk about. But something happens to us where we don't want to be disturbed by our most beloved ones also. You see? We close our eyes, we're just sitting there thinking you're wasting time. You see, what a waste of a life. You're just sitting with eyes closed. But something is happening to you which is not limbo, which is not just like sitting in a dark, empty room, because your children may come, the most beloved one may come, huh? And say, Papa, Papa. And you're like, leave me alone right now. Right now, this magic which is unfolding, this grace which is unfolding, you don't want to exchange that for anything else. You see? Now, for the mind, what is happening? Maybe it paints a narrative, but it's not accurate. Maybe nothing is really happening in terms of perception also. Maybe in terms of perception, it's all just dark. But in your heart, in the very essence of your being, some work is happening. So Saint Teresa of Avila said that when we leave ourselves alone, then he works on our heart. You see? But the work on our heart may be under some anesthesia. Like we can't tell what's happening. But you can tell there's a beautiful surgery which is happening. I wonder, can we tell or I'm just now? We can tell, isn't it? So we left suffering behind, at least for that moment, and without any pride about it. We left the narratives, the suffering, all of that behind in the moment we left ourselves. And just for that benefit itself would be well worth our spiritual effort. But that is just the very beginning. What is that which happened? You said yourself, what I feel, what I experience is not something phenomenal. It must be coming from a non-phenomenal place. You see? Now you're stuck with that statement for years, I know. But it's true, isn't it? So this open heart surgery which happens, That is the working of love, that is the working of grace. And that is what nobody ever comes to an awakening. Nobody says, okay, that's it, I've seen it all. No? In pride, we may say that actually. But otherwise, nobody says, okay, now no inquiry, no prayer, I've seen it all finished. See? Because I saw that I am pure awareness in that moment of insight, pure insight. We may even take credit and say, I did the inquiry so well, that I saw who I really am. Like what would it mean to do the inquiry really well? Nobody knows. You see, like I asked very articulately, who am I? What did we do really well? Nothing. You see, and just that grace blessed us. We allowed ourselves to remain in that grace. So we came to an insight about who we are. But nobody who comes to that insight says, okay, now I've seen it. We do that with worldly things. Oh, I've seen that. I've seen Niagara Falls. I've seen this. Why do we have to go again and again? We've seen it. But this is not like that. Because every moment in that beauty, in that grace, in that magic, reveals deeper and deeper and sweeter insights. But it's not just collecting the insights, it's just a feeling of belonging, a feeling of being in your true home. That's why Kabirji said, Niharva hamko na bhave. I want to go to my beloved's house, my mother's house I'm not liking, or my parents' house I'm not liking. Because once you start falling in love with the beloved who lives in your heart, you want to go there. You want to be there. And that is the deepening of love. That is the deepening of a bond which is forever present. But it seems like we have to renew as if we are beginners every day. Bless it. If one day I come to a point where I don't feel like a beginner and I feel like now I know it all and I've seen it all, and my relationship of love with God is so strong that I can take it for granted, then I know that that is the day I fell for Ravan's pride. Nothing to do with your question. I'm not ranting about that. I'm just saying that spirituality is a job for forever beginners. For those who are forever in awe of His Majesty, of His reality, because reality is beyond fathoming. In our intellect, what Nirguna Brahman sounds like is very different from what Nirguna Brahman feels like in our heart. Everything is Nirguna Brahman, I am pure awareness, attributeless, qualityless. You see, very useful for discourses and to write books and to be seen as very spiritually accomplished. But to dive into the Nirguna, in the holy place in your heart, in the guidance of the Atma within, that is, nothing in the world can replace that. Nothing in the world is worth anything compared to that. So, But innocence, 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 beginner, beginner, beginner. So let's say for now, in answer to your question, the complicated one has left. We have left the complicated one. A simple child remains. And this is what the simple child should do. Good enough for the moment.
Father, to your point where you said this is a difficult path, like even Ishq in that sense, I just wanted to address one area where I have difficulty. When I'm alone, which is most of the day, all these, everything that we're learning from you seems easier to do. But when we meet the world, samsara, matrix, whatever you want to call it, that's when the rubber meets the road at a certain level. The preparation alone definitely is the precursor. It helps in meeting the world. So at least some work is being done. Where I'm confused about, Father, I mean, there were two areas of confusion for me in terms of human interaction. One was forgiving, and I think having a few conversations here in Satsang and also watching The Chosen, where there was a lot of emphasis in season 4 around that. Just through that storytelling and observing Jesus and everything he said has just kind of intuitively resolved that, and I'm not overthinking that when I'm encountering situations of forgiving. Where I'm struggling or get confused is judgment. And maybe I can give the example of that Yahoo Baba when he was here, right? When I was asked to talk about Gaur Gopal, and he interpreted it as me judging him, and he blew a fuse and so on and so forth. But then you came in and at the right time, whenever you felt it was right, and you said what you had to say. And you spoke with, I've rarely seen you speak like that. And so it was it wasn't a surprise, but it was something new to see. And that, those kind of situations arise in my life too. And I have been maybe adopting a narrative that thou shalt not judge. And maybe it's like a template. And as you've always told us, don't get stuck with templates. So when I sit in presence or I take a pause, when I'm interacting with somebody where judgment is occurring, and maybe it's discrimination that is occurring, and it's not a negative word, there's discrimination going on, which doesn't mean I think I'm superior to them, which maybe the word judgment is laced with. But words matter, and that confusion sometimes comes from what word you have plugged into your head. And the specific example I'd like to give, rather than speak abstractly, is I have a friend who I've had for 35 years. Is a dear friend. We have some amazing times. But off late, let's say that person is doing some very unethical, unholy actions to many people, and I've heard this from many people, and it's true. I've done enough due diligence to know it's true, but it's not happened to me. My interaction with that person is fine. But when I interact with him, it's like I struggle a little bit these days. And this unconditional love that you started talking about is challenging, to be honest. I don't wish him well. I don't wish him unwell. I also in my heart, I know he's doing what he's doing because there are causes and conditions to it. Even Hitler has probably a reason why he's Hitler. And I get it. If I was born under those circumstances, I might have been the same guy, right? So that level of detachment, and it's not like this aggressive judgment. But I just find it uncomfortable to interact with him anymore and be his friend. And some way I feel like, oh, am I judgy? You know, Jesus said, "Thou shalt not judge anybody," and so that's a bit of a mess in my
And
head.
yet he
Sorry?
shouted at the Pharisees so much. He went to the temple and had fights.
Yeah, that
So
that I can make
let's
sense of. Yeah, so it's a bit of a mess for me. So
yeah
that's the
yeah.
yeah.
I'll try to share a little bit about that from my little bit perspective that I have. For me, I'm a pacifist. Uh, as my conditioning has always been that of pacifist, and like very introverted and a pacifist. So for me, I would rather, like the older one would never have invited this one to our place anyway. But what really started changing something here is I realized that either I really mean it that our life is a zombie life without finding God and living in God's presence, and therefore, for those brothers and sisters in the world, it's literally a matter of life and death. You see? And if I say that I love everyone and I want what's best for them, and I don't, so this sort of metaphor came, that if I know in my heart that this is a life-saving vaccine, then what is the position of the other one before I offer them this life-saving vaccine? Do I need them to be open? Are zombies open to getting the vaccine? You see, do I need them to be before my ego is now feeling like, yes, now I can offer them this? You see? So more and more I'm going toward that end, that even when I'm in social occasions or family occasions with family now, I've done it a few times, whereas in the past I would not have. I try to knock on their doors and say, you're all getting a bit older. Uh, I'm hitting 50 soon. All of you are in similar age groups. Do you want to really talk about this a little bit? Are you open to there being something else in life besides these things which seem to be in Maya? And of course, they may take me to be preachy or thrusting it down their throat or evangelistic or whatever. But do I feel really that the gift that God has given me, without that gift, my life would be just a dead life pretending to be alive? Or is it really not that? And then isn't it, in a sense, my job to see if there's even a sliver of openness to this somewhere? You see? So I'm operating more and more from that perspective. And even with the one who came the other day, that was my intention. Is there, like the first day, we saw some hope, at least some of us who were there. We felt like maybe there is some change that can happen, but whatever, God's grace had different plans, but the intention is there. But because I've also been wrong so many thousands of times in my life, to try and retain openness to another perspective, to say that I know this feels so true right now, it seems so clearly true in my heart right now, but can I still be open to another and say maybe God has sent them to show me a higher way? You see? It's not always easy, but I hope even in that conversation that day, I was trying to be as open as I could have been.
Yeah, that's what was beautiful, Father, and that's the lesson for us to learn. So when I was interacting with this friend, I sat quietly at my home before I interacted with him and just kind of dropped that question into my being, if you will. What should I do, kind of thing, and answer that came, and I followed everything else, which is no rush, patience.
Yeah.
There's no personal gain. I'm free of all of that baggage. The answer that came was like, oh, if I'm also not perfect, I'm also doing so many things that I could do better, and somebody may judge that too. And so, but if I did have a friend, I would want them to tell me with love and care, and maybe that's what I'll do, without having any fear of, yeah. That's the answer that came. But Father, when these kind of answers come, there seems to be a subtle conversation that's happening in there. It's not like the mind is active. I don't think it was rumination. It's like I dropped the question and then this thing came out. It's still words though. So sometimes I think is that.
Can be guide.
Yeah.
Your heart can guide you in words. And those conversations may deepen in their beauty. It's very. As long as we don't have any expectation because we were guided from the heart, shouldn't mean that the outcome is always good or something like that. Then because our intention truly was to follow God, God's grace will take care of that. Even if we get a little bit contaminated by the mind sometimes, we don't have to worry. It is our intention to follow His will which is paramount. And know that God will never speak to us in that way where we will be able to hear without faith. Okay? So He'll always leave it to a question of faith ultimately. Even though in that moment it seems so clear He is guiding. Next moment the mind will come and say, but was it really? Are you sure? The mind itself will say, is it not your mind? All of these things. So faith will be needed to say, no, it seems so clear in my heart.
In an opposite example, Father, I'm just trying to bring these things into difficult samsara situations. That's why these questions, because otherwise it doesn't work. I was negotiating with a client. It's my largest client. They represent 95% of my revenues, which is dangerous in itself, but that's where I am. And they're trying to bully me right now into dropping prices, and I can drop prices, but I shouldn't for many other reasons. And so this guy came on the call and he was literally bullying and saying, if you don't drop your price, where are you going to go? So I took a pause, because normally I think I would have asked for more time or chickened out or whatever. But I just took a pause, uncomfortable pause, and I was basically doing the same thing, just dropping that question in and seeing if something happens. And if nothing would have happened, I would have asked for time. But in a very, very gentle way, the words that came out was, hey, I don't think we will get bullied. So if you want to walk away and you also are going to lose, I'm okay. I'd rather, I won't be bullied, and I'd rather not take anything. But afterwards, it felt good in the moment. I was no stress. Half an hour after that also, it didn't feel like I was afraid or anything. But the question that came was, when I said I will not be bullied, was that coming from an ego place, that I, the Narain I, or but the resolution I found in that was, no, I'm speaking on behalf of the company, and I didn't feel a personal ego offense in that moment. It wasn't like I was hurt. It was like, it's bad for the company and we won't be bullied. And yeah, so that was another example that caused confusion. So just wanted to share that.
These are beautiful experiments because these are the difficult things exactly the things which I was saying, that sometimes if our spirituality is feeling too easy, then I'm a bit suspicious about that. Because like I was saying, so many times every day I still rush into my will rather than waiting for God's will. So it's very beautiful to really experiment in this way, to allow yourself to deepen in this way. And it's because it's always going to be a question of faith. Can we really post facto determine and say, where did I? No, just have to that also we just have to trust that in that moment where it flowed from is by the grace of God. In the instruction we could actually, so suppose if we made it the other way around, if we started with this saying unmoving except at his command, then said seeking his light without worldly eyes, feeling him loving my heart, looking lovingly at him, I sit in the unreachable abyss of my soul, leaving myself. So the instruction can work starting from letting go of our individual will into leaving the false one behind through this beautiful spiritual process as well. Unmoving except at his command. But is it his command? Okay, my dear. Bless you so much. Shall I learn to keep this body a little well rested and go? Let me hear Samya quickly and then we go. Hello, my
Hello,
dear.
Father.
Hello.
Thank you so much for giving me chance to speak. I don't want to take your time so much. Actually, I can bring it to another moment, and it doesn't feel so important now. Um, Maybe I just want to ask you that if you allow me, I would love to come to India, and
Yes,
yeah,
yes, I've always said, of course you can come. Very welcome.
okay, yeah, then I can start the process then, and we can talk there.
Very good, very good. Happy.
Thank
Happy.
you, Father. Thank you so much.
Bless you, bless you. Very good, very good. Okay. Maybe just after the arti.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारि राम निज मन मुकुर सुधारि बरनउँ रघुबर बिमल जसु चोदायक फलचारि तुलसी चोदायक फलचारि बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार राम सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार तुलसी हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर, जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा, अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी, कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन बरन बिराज सुबेसा, कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा बिराजे, कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन, तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्त्र जो जन पर भानु, लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानू। प्रभु मुद्रिका मिली मुख माही, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज संहारो आपे, तीनों लोक हाकते कापे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे। महावीर जब नाम सुनावे, नासे रोग हरे सब पीड़ा। जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुहारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुबरपुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरई, हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीड़ा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, झूठ ही बंदी महा सुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजे नाथ हृदय महाडेरा। कीजे नाथ हृदय महाडेरा। पवन नयन संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुर